Greetings, this is the meeting of the Community Preservation Committee, October 18. And our first item on the agenda tonight. 17, sorry, Wednesday, October 17. First item on the agenda tonight is our public hearing for warrant articles, and other items we hope to cover tonight include some discussion on a search for recreational land, updates on Gump's farm, the Affordable Housing Assistance Program, and I guess a historic plaque that I'm not quite sure what that's about, but we'll find out. So I will start the, we need a motion to open the public hearing, right?
I move that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So this is a public hearing for our warrant articles for the fall town meeting. We currently have 4 warrant articles, and I'll read them aloud. We'll very briefly describe them, and then we'll see if there's any other discussion on it, and we'll move forward. So our first warrant article is to see if the town will vote to allocate from the Community Preservation Fund, the Historical Reserve, an amount of $17,800 to fund continued restoration of the Pondville Cemetery Crypt. And this is including work on the steel door, grading around the crypt stone wall, and plantings. And Betsy Pine of the Historic Commission can give a little more detail.
Well, this is a second part of a restoration program that started a couple of years ago. And with funding for that first half, we repaired the deteriorating crypt and shored up the land around the crypt a little bit that was washing away. And with this part 2 restoration, we're going to do the items that we couldn't do in the first half. And that is, it's actually an iron door, which is going to be taken down and sandblasted and repaired and put back together again, made to work. And we're going to build a few stone walls and finish the shoring up of the sloping land around the crypt. And we also have a very simple plan for plantings around it to add to the stability of the soil around the crypt. And that's about it.
Okay, is there any further discussion from the board on this warrant article? Hearing none, I'll move on to 2. This would also be funded through the Historical Reserve, and this would be $2,100 to fund repairs to the Tramp House. And this also includes work on the door, moldings, and clapboards.
Yes, this is the year of fixing doors, I guess. This is a small maintenance project on the Tramp House, which is one of our most historic buildings. The door is rotting away. It's a metal door, and we're going to try to put up a wooden door. Moldings, some of the clapboards, and some painting, and it's a modest amount of $2,100.
Any further discussion from the board?
The Tramp House is the there's a small building here on Town Hill, right?
Red one.
Yes, small building on Town Hill that's next to the library parking lot. It was built in 1886, and it is one of our historic treasures.
And it's had many uses.
And it's had many uses. But it's a very unusual building to have still owned by a town, and it was indeed a place where homeless people lived.
Our third article that will appear in the warrant is also coming, 3 historic articles today, also coming from the Historical Reserve, $40,000. And this is to fund a project that has been brought forward by the town clerk's office. And it is going to include, well, basically the whole thing is to digitize our historic public records, providing backup copy that's kept off-site. And part of what prompted this whole project among multiple town clerks was the tornado that hit Munson and basically scattered their town hall records through a portion of the state of Massachusetts. So this includes hardware, software, consulting services, where a firm comes, installs all the organizational software, and trains not only town of Norfolk employees, but also anyone who might be designated to work on the project by the town of Norfolk, whether they be volunteers or seniors. And it will scan and laserfiche the vital and historic records into a secure and searchable database specific to our needs, our being the town of Norfolk. And it will be searchable within the town and to a certain extent for anyone in the public, the records that would be public. Anyone want to?
I think a lot of this,
Amplify on that a little bit?
lot of this information will be available online, if not immediately, eventually.
Oh, the public records.
Yeah.
Right. Except obviously there are some that are always classified, so to
Right.
speak. Would anyone else like to add to my description?
No, I think it's
I think you covered it.
one
Okay.
of those projects where the community preservation can help to set up an organizational system that is used for historic records, and that's the link to the community preservation funds, but once it's established, can be available for other town records. And so it should be a real asset to the community
Right.
in the future.
I think there is some thinking within town hall here that, yes, once it is established and working, it might even be adopted by other boards to keep, some of their records of meetings and projects, et cetera.
Minutes.
Yeah, minutes, but that part of it is not being funded with CPA funds. That would be an ongoing, just through the town of Norfolk itself. Anything else?
Well, it will certainly be a huge asset for those who are researching and writing about historical anything
Right.
in Norfolk.
And especially genealogy and such.
Yes,
Right.
wonderful.
Our fourth warrant article is going to benefit the Recreation Department and the town as a whole. We do not have a dollar amount on this yet. And Proto of Recreation is meeting currently with vendors to establish a cost. And the idea is to fund a recreation strategic plan. And basically what it's going to do is assess recreation needs from the standpoint of what type of, what's the word I want? What type of activities are being offered by recreation in general, but also more specifically, field usage, sports, projected growth or not growth of our youth sports, adult pickup games, all of that is going to be assessed for, say, the upcoming 10 years, and trying to really put a real plan as to what the town needs going forward to be able to satisfy the needs of its residents for recreation purposes. And part of what prompted this is that with the new school being built, several fields had been lost. And we began with talking with Rec about town-owned land, state-owned land, land that was for sale. And the sense really was that rather than just addressing this kind of willy-nilly, that if we had something really well thought out, well researched, it would be a lot easier to really plan and see what we need to do as far as getting additional lands for use and any other needs, be it buildings or whatever else. And the good thing is that changes in the state, changes recently in the Community Preservation Act itself now allow CPA funds to be used for these recreational purposes that could not be used before. So this is how we're going to, it's kind of like doing an open space needs assessment. We're doing the same thing but for recreation so that we can work on a logical manner going forward. Anyone else?
And I think it's also modeled after the good work of the Historic Commission representatives on the board early on, did a strategic plan of all the historic resources in town, and then have been working off of that plan
Yeah,
and
the
the needs of that
recommendations.
plan
Yeah.
for the 10 years of Norfolk CPC, and we probably have more projects that are in historic than any other group because it's such a well thought out
Very
and
organized.
knowledgeable plan and easy to prioritize. So for recreation to do the same thing is a very
Following the
important
model.
base.
You know, I was impressed with Ann Proto's very detailed presentation at the previous meeting. I wasn't aware of the necessity to not overuse fields and to, like, rotate usage of them. I thought, oh, a
Right.
field's a field. So I think it's it's good to follow suit and to get this
Right.
kind of practice going.
As she pointed out to us, currently, the way the field situation is, say, at Freeman Centennial, in the past, and this was many years ago, is they needed a field, they just kind of squeezed it in. And so, for instance, the outfield of the baseball field might overlap with a soccer field, and, that's not necessarily a situation that you want. So this would allow recreation to have a better blueprint for how to move forward and really make the most efficient use of whatever land we have. Any other discussion? Oh, I should mention that Ann Proto of Recreation did meet, she was planning on meeting today with a vendor to flesh out the strategic plan and get a cost on it. And so hopefully we will hear back within a week or so on that.
As
She
with-
did a lot of research on different companies before she chose one that really seemed to meet similar to the town of Norfolk, what the town of Norfolk needs.
As with any strategic plan, the money allocated in this warrant article will strictly be to develop the needs and action,
Analysis.
and the analysis, the needs, and the recommendations for how to address those needs in Norfolk. Any projects that are implemented off of this plan would be separate warrant articles with separate town meeting votes.
Right.
Possibly separate community preservation application requests.
All right.
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 All right. Hearing no other discussion, that would conclude our public hearing on our 4 warrant articles.
Have we met with advisory yet?
We have met with the advisory board, and they're waiting to hear the additional information on the recreation one, obviously. So, they did, it was very helpful that the town clerk was able to come in and discuss his project, because he can do it much more fluently than I can. And he was really able to answer their detailed questions that they had that I could not have answered. So that was really helpful, so I think they understand that now. And I did give them also a copy of the brochure that we had gotten from them, so that they have that as well. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll have a motion to close our public hearing.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing for warrant articles is closed. I know several people here are rather tight on time tonight, so I'll just mention, we did have Norfolk Grange update on our agenda. I did not double-check with the Grange to ask for the update, so there is none.
I can just say in a sentence
Thank you.
that the Grange is ever so close to being done.
That was my understanding, was that they were very close to being.
Suzanne, give a report.
Right. Do you want to talk about the historic plaque
Yeah.
on Everett Street?
Yes, on Everett Street. In 2010, the Route 115 improvement project began, going from Pondville all the way down to Norfolk Center. And as we all know, the trestles, the abutments were removed. And I do have a trestle block at the end of my driveway. But the rest of the blocks were all broken up into pieces. Now, there are 2 walls on Route 115. Richard Connors contacted me about a month ago and said, the intersection of Everett as it crosses over to go to the Pondville Cemetery, as it crosses Pine Street, we noticed that there was another stone wall being built. I thought it was trestle blocks. I don't think it is. That doesn't matter, but it's a lovely stone wall. And it's at the end of Everett Street there. Does everybody know where I mean? Well, it's so pretty, and Richard said, don't you think it would be wonderful to have a sign? Well, now, I think he was thinking similar to the one at the cemetery, so ka-ching, but that says Pondville. I mean, we really would like that. So I said, he mentioned, would CPC be interested in hearing this? And I said, yes, they would. So I talked about it with Betsy Pine, and so this is just the very beginning. This is an idea. But I haven't discussed any more details with Richard than, yes, we would love one.
Do you want it to be part of the wall or on a post or?
Well, I did ask him that. Did we want it on a post standing? And he said his personal preference was to have one in the wall, out of stone, again. Well, I don't think as fancy as the one at the cemetery.
Is this a town-built wall, or is this?
That's
Or
what I was going
state.
to ask.
It would be state if it's
State.
by
But it's-
Lynch,
But it's on town property.
but it's on, yeah, so
No,
we would have to
15
get permission?
It's
It's a state highway.
That's why
Okay.
that's why the state's doing the.
I mean, so we
project.
would need to get permission. I don't think they'd mind, one way or the other. But it's a great place, it's entering.
So it would say like entering Pondville?
I asked Richard, were you thinking entering Pondville or Pondville? And I think, no, actually, Pondville established 1730. But these are details to be discussed. It's only been discussed.
My only thought would be that it might be confusing to people looking for Norfolk when they drive it and they see they're in Pondville and they go,
Where's that?
right, my GPS isn't telling me I'm in Pondville. So maybe it could say like Pondville, a village of Norfolk, or something like
I
that.
think that's a good idea.
What it says could come after, first of all, we needed to know, is this something we could do and get some help to pay for?
Well,
But you know what, by the way, as one comes from Foxborough down 140, have you noticed that it says entering Rentham?
Yeah, it does for a second.
But then it never says entering Norfolk.
Right, right.
Has it always been?
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
blink.
it's always confused me, but yes, it's always been there. I had to look on a map once.
I never realized it
Tiny
until I
little
was
section
writing
of
my
it.
book, and I thought, so when you said Pondville, I thought the person's really going to wonder,
Yeah.
where's Norfolk? So I asked Richard if he would come to a meeting, and he said yes, but he and I need to discuss it more. It's
Sure.
just a brand-new thought.
Could you also possibly include Bob McGee in your conversations?
definitely.
Oh, definite, oh,
Because the
yeah.
bureaucracy of dealing with the state, I mean.
He'll have a
just
better sense of it.
Thinking that you can put, I mean, there's a National Register district at the corner of Seekonk now that was finally accepted and designated.
Yeah.
And I've been talking with Paul Sullivan about having a sign up there that says National.
As in the resident.
Paul Sullivan, well, yes, he doesn't live in Sullivan's Corner, but he's a descendant of the Sullivans. And putting a sign on a main road involves the bureaucracy.
Okay.
So you'd have to find out, and Bob will probably know.
Bob is a friend to Pondville in that he has been interested in visiting it,
Right.
and he's aware of it.
Right.
And so he would be a great resource as
Right.
well as,
Ask him about whether or not he can put it up for us,
okay.
because
Town projects.
it just depends on the state highway and whether you can put a sign up. Somebody might say, oh, this is a traffic hazard.
Could the state pay for that as part
Oh,
of like the remediation of their project?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Chances are, the project has already, its limits have already been established, because it, went out to bid and.
And they're done, and I think,
Well, they're sort of done, but there's 2 trees over the Audubon that are hanging over 115 rather badly.
I think they're done.
That's part
with
of their
money.
project, that those trees are like that. So they've got to have some funds for things that, as you know, trees can die 6 months later from root damage, so there has to be some contingency money there for those kinds of things, or like paint that doesn't stick to the lane and has to be
Right, right.
repainted.
Betsy, if you want, I'll address this later, but I'm actually have a meeting with Bob McGee on Friday. Do you want me just to ask him?
I would love it. Yes, thank you.
I love the idea of Pondville, a village of Norfolk. 'Cause that-
Okay.
I've seen signs like that in Attleboro, because Attleboro,
The Cape, you see some like,
Yeah.
such and such a village of Barnstable.
I think there's
Or
one
Wellfleet,
in
yeah.
Attleboro, or North Attleboro, I've forgotten, which is Amityville or Amityville or some, and it goes back to the mill days when there was, like City Mills. Like
Well,
you could have-
Sheldonville,
Right.
Sheldonville,
Right.
exactly. Is there a sign that says you are now in Sheldonville?
Burrowville.
should be.
There's some kind of store that makes
Yeah, the
it clear.
Sheldonville General
Yeah.
Store, right?
There's a-
That's funny.
So I think it would be something that would be very nice.
I think if you notice, the town of Norfolk, I don't think has any signs, highway signs saying Norfolk established.
Except in the center.
Coming into Millis, coming in from Millis, coming
coming
in
in
from
from
You
Medfield,
know,
Wall.
that's something I would like to see too.
coming in from Walpole.
Very nice. I would
There's-
love to see
I
that.
don't think we have any signs that
Nope.
recognize,
Nope, and that would be
Our
a really nice
existence.
idea.
that would be, I mean,
I love
that's
it.
not
That
CPC
old-fashioned
money.
one coming up Main Street, on the corner
I was
past the
wondering if
horse.
there was
Myrtle
one on
Street.
Franklin.
There's a funky
Oh,
old one.
Millis
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
way, and I
Yeah.
love that sign.
Yeah.
Well, if you're coming through Franklin, you see the Norfolk hockey rink sign that'll let you know that you're coming down.
Coming close, yeah.
That's the only way you can tell.
Yeah.
So that would be nice to see. I would love that idea.
All right, so I will ask Bob what he thinks, and by all means, I think, you guys continue to think
But
about it.
now, would this be something we could get possibly CPC
If it's a
funding.
suitable use,
It's the historic commission should.
would be
should-
through?
Yeah, I mean,
should
Okay.
present it, yeah.
if you think it's a historic,
Oh, we could
Meaning
do
it's a
one
historic
that says City
resource.
Mills. We could do one that
Well-
says City Mills of
Another
Village
town
of.
plaque.
And if
No.
people want to push that,
We
Yeah.
also have
City
one
Mill.
at Pondville Cemetery. We talked about
Yeah.
having one at Pondville
I
Cemetery.
like
Right.
that. I like that very much.
well, we have an outstanding project on a walking tour in the town center. It's certainly with all the resources of Pondville, you might consider something like that.
I have a
walking
In bike,
On that
walking,
subject.
driving,
there's a
historic resources.
I have a lead on that as far as these things happen so fast in the world that we communicate is changing very quickly. And one of the more popular ways to do it is there's an app.
Yes.
That's a smartphone app that has become very economically feasible for such a thing, rather than the idea
Paper
of
brochure.
printing. Yeah, and
What
so
does the app do?
As opposed
it's
to-
like it's like an audio walking tour.
like at
But
the
you play it on your
museum
phone.
when
Yeah.
or they actually have things.
So you have somebody, you
talking
go and
website.
you could do the little code, and they would say, this is where the
Things
personage
like
was, blah, blah,
this
blah.
trestle block that is at Mrs. Whitney's driveway.
By private appointment
I think-
only.
By private
Right, you can see it
appointment.
by appointment
The
only.
thing about this that raises people's, this an aesthetic is what do you make the sign out of? Do you make it out of granite? Do you make it out of metal? Do you make it out of wood? Or do you make it out of plastic? A lot of people have plastic ones, which
Well,
And that's.
We
the
were
next-
good.
thinking-
Plastic's come a long way.
they last a long time, but who
Routed
wants to look at
plastic
a
lasts
plastic sign?
almost
But
a
this
lifetime.
this is why I brought in the topic of this being one village, there being the ability in the future to expand it across town. If whatever you do here, you might end up using throughout the town, so, be
This might be a
careful.
half a dozen signs.
This could be
Yeah.
one of a half a dozen signs,
Yeah.
So,
with all connected through an MP3 player tool.
Sounds good. Because City Mills might someday get an interpretive plaque at the pond,
Picnic,
talking
yeah.
about the stop in the mills there and the white train and everything else.
there's still equipment in the backyard of that mill for drying shoddy wool. There's a gigantic dryer. It's just very,
That's fantastic, and that would be great to have a
it's
little.
amazing.
Yeah.
I've seen it, but I saw it about 20 years ago, so I don't know if it's still there.
I don't know, because they knocked down the old structure, so I think some of it went then. All right, so let's move on, because I know people
Okay.
Yep.
are busy. I'm going to skip down to the Myrtle and Gold Street property. I did not bring the email from Ann, but I'm hoping that everybody saw the asking price for the combined.
I did.
Properties, I
I
don't-
read it in the notes,
Okay.
minutes. Yeah, Thank you for those.
Right, so then we had said that if we got a price from them for the combined parcels together, that we would reconsider doing an appraisal on it. So that's the discussion I want to bring up tonight. And Michelle did take a look and go back and look at all the appraisal costs, because that was part of it. Nobody could remember how much we've paid. It ran from $1,400 to $4,500, which was the airport, very large parcel.
Wow.
With an average of around $2,500. It was kind of like the average price. So that's kind of a ballpark of, what we might expect to pay. Ann is still very interested in that property. Did you discuss it any further at your meeting?
No, we haven't.
Okay. So, and I know there's other recreation business that Tom has too. So this first, obviously they're motivated to sell the two parcels together, plus the extra 2-acre lot that was kind of attached to it. And so I just want to discuss if we want to go forward with an appraisal.
Do you have a sketch of that property?
I did not bring it. You know where it is?
I do.
Okay.
I just, sometimes we see the actual lines, it
Would you-
reveals, it goes all the way to the house with the
Yes.
chickens or
On the
whatever.
corner, yeah.
Offered.
What you want is
And it
the
goes all
Little
the gold.
detail in the September 19th
And then it goes all the way to
minutes.
the back up the
Gold
sort of half, yeah, but off of Gold Street, that makes a
Up to the
perfect
woods.
box, because there's
Yeah.
a cart road at the
Yeah.
wood line where the hill starts.
Yep.
It's almost a perfect
Right.
box.
Right.
It's not listed in the minutes, and would be a valuable inclusion, is the assessor's lots, so that we knew exactly what, exactly which parcels we're speaking of.
I believe it's 12 acres.
Yeah, it's about 12 acres. Yeah, you're right. Well, obviously, yes, and we would get all that if we decide to go forward with an appraisal.
This is-
Anyone have an opinion on getting
Well,
the appraisal?
I have a question. This wouldn't have to do with our town meeting article, right?
No, this is, it's
No,
administrative
appraisals come out of
costs.
administrative cost.
Oh, I see.
It's all part of preparing
'Cause-
for
To make an
future.
offer. Because, we can't, for the audience, the CP, or the Community Preservation Committee, the town cannot pay more than appraised value for a property using CPA funds. So that is part of the process, is that we have to get an appraisal on a property if we're interested in purchasing it. This particular parcel is at roughly at the corner of Myrtle and Gold Street. It's for sale as 2 house lots. It's a flat, not wooded parcel, and Recreation Department thinks it would be a good site for fields. It's on a main road, would have adequate parking and field space. And Ann Proto has spoken to the seller, and they are interested in moving forward. But again, the first step from the Community Preservation Committee would be to get an appraisal of the property. So that's, any discussion, yes or no, on opinions from the board?
I think it's an awesome property, I think,
Make a
for
motion.
that reason.
Make a motion that we hire an appraiser for this particular property.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So you will tell Ann probably.
Thank you.
And I will, we have 3 appraisers that we've had referred to us in the past, and I can contact them and see who might be willing to do this. And yes, we get all the appropriate block map. I think we all don't have it because we're all familiar with where it is, but, okay. We'll move forward with that.
Right.
Yeah, go-
If we're leaving the subject, I just want to touch on it
be my guest.
some more in brief. I know you guys have talked about it a little bit in the past, but one of the things that I'm a proponent of, or keenly interested in almost every property that we talk about in Norfolk, is the idea of open greenways or green space or natural habitat corridors, which are extremely popular even throughout the United States. I'm thinking of the Appalachian Trail for one. And this would, if we acquire this property, it would solve some of the ongoing limitations to the old rail bed bike trail And that's of mine. And I know Bob's been trying to figure out some ideas about how to stay away, 400 feet away from the wells, and I think that's great to think about that some more. And then there's already a green space restriction on the property across the street that's being developed into 9 houses or
Right.
or what have you. And so whether that becomes sort of a navigable way or not, at least for nature or things that need to, like deer, for example, they'll have a nice lane to go through there. And I'm very eager to see that all put together as the Emerald Necklace of Norfolk.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, that
I think
sounds
it's,
so
I think
nice.
it's important what Matt is saying, should certainly, Anne should keep in her mind that CPC's generally been looking for dual purposes for properties. So, you know, if there's a way to maximize, you know, open space, not historic restoration, affordable housing, we certainly should consider it in any purchase.
I think, I mean, to be perfectly forthcoming, it'll allow joggers to get off of Medway Street without a sidewalk and get into a wide area they can run in and not have to kind of use the flashlight and the orange vest all the time, you know?
Well, one of the, if you're in these discussions after the meeting, if the landowner is amenable, if you could get a survey plan from him. I'm sure he has a basic engineering and plot plan showing the property lines, the legal description of the property, any
Right.
easements that might be already in place, so that if he offers that information to us, it'll be a lot easier for the appraisal.
Right, and I think I should know that. We should know if we have that capability of getting that before we actually,
Yeah, it'd make a big difference, because the
Yeah.
first question the appraisal will ask is, do you have
a survey plan.
a survey plan?
Can I ask a question? Is this, are these two lots, or is this plot adjacent already to
The small 2-acre one?
to the Bob McGee?
To the landfill, the
Land.
backwoods of the
Any even corner of
landfill.
it?
They're calling it
I
like the
was-
water
I
department.
was hesitant.
Wells.
I was hesitant to say, that's why I keep harping on the boundaries, because when you're out there on the trails, the common understanding is that you pass off of town land onto private land. And I'm not sure, we all know about the house back there. I'm not sure where that is in relation to this, whether or not the backwoods of the town landfill actually touch this,
So-
or is very close to this.
So the answer is maybe.
Maybe is the big answer.
Well, that's important
We'll know it
That's a
shortly.
reason to do the appraisal.
What's the reason to continue the discussion with the
continue
landfill,
the discussion
with the
because-
landowner?
And review the towns.
Yeah.
Because one of the criteria for us for buying things is pieces that are connected to other pieces.
Yes.
Makes them both more valuable pieces, which is great.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's a good
Yeah,
thing.
that's another point to look into.
If it's adjacent to,
Yeah, those are active trails.
All right, so along these lines, we'll skip over to kind of our general recreation land search topic here. And I know I happened to visit the recreation meeting on Monday, and and Recreation wanted to ask something of CPC.
Our fields are jammed with kids 7 days a week now. We have a partial field at Kennedy, Friedman Kennedy complex.
Yeah, the pictures will help.
I read the minutes.
Pass those down.
We're losing some field there.
The land is town-owned. conservation land.
That abuts the, school land.
Yeah.
Right, at the back.
If you look down in the, lower right corner, they get a regulation size soccer field in there. We need a additional 35 to 40 feet. And Ian's been to the conservation, and they have given a tentative approval. For us to look into it.
Right.
Anyway, and we would like to ask the CPC to fund a survey of the property.
It would actually, can I interject?
Please do.
It wouldn't be, the whole property would basically be this line that you see at the bottom corner, just to find out exactly where that boundary line is.
The one that's dashed?
The one that's right above where it says conservation land, in this lower right-hand corner.
The wood line,
Yeah, it's the line
Oh,
that's
you're
right
looking
inside the
down
wood
there.
line.
You're not looking
You've
at
got
this
it
thing
upside
that-
down.
You're not looking at the town-owned
Oh,
piece.
turn it around.
I know,
I know.
I know, that's because I was
Conservation land.
I was doing Boardman Street
Yeah, I know.
and moving forward.
Because-
It's a-
Yeah,
Go
all
ahead.
right, so basically, the idea was, you can't tell from the maps that are currently in existence where the actual lot line is in regard, like how many feet in from the woods. So that would go a long way in saying whether or not, you know, you could, there was enough here to get that soccer field in, or if you need to ask for, 20 feet from the conservation land. But kind of the first step is to know exactly where that lot line is. And so that's, they would ask us to, was there a price? There
Yeah,
wasn't there? She got a price just to survey that line alone, to see how much additional it could get us?
You can't do that.
Why not?
You have to tie it into something else.
Well, they would, but I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but
the
what
only
I'm
thing
saying
we'd be
is-
looking to flag.
But what you end up tying it into is something out here, so you might as well do the whole line.
Yeah, I don't know about, I didn't hear any discussion about this parcel
That's
here.
really that other one is really interesting.
which one?
it's the
The one that says
corner piece.
town-owned.
Right, but this says town-owned up here, too.
And that looks fascinating, because it's easier to read when you have it upside down.
There is access
Yeah,
further down on Boardman Street that isn't very well publicized up until right now.
Okay. Is Recreation considering, is this conservation, or is just this town of Norfolk?
it says town-owned.
Do you know?
I'm having a hard time figuring out where this is.
Well, that's why if you do it upside down,
Yeah, no, I
I think it's
get
Then
this
you get
is
the
Boardman
access
Street.
into the
Yeah.
see the
back.
curve on Boardman?
No, I see that, and I think I know, like, whose house this is here, so
Yes,
it's
you
really
do.
behind their house.
Yes.
And it's not the first house. It's not the house, it's the house at the corner is really the second house.
So is it, does the town own this entire parcel, or do they just own an access point through there?
You can't have a landlocked property like that.
Even if it comes through the school?
For- As far as I know, it's
Because it's a separate parcel.
access to this back field
Okay.
area.
Well, either way, either piece, it looks like it's landlocked, right?
No, that's what I'm saying, is chances are, what is shown here in a yellow line might,
Oh, be a
might not
potential
be-
access from the road?
it might not be a drive drawing. It may be,
Paper road.
it may be it might have some property. See how there's
So
there's
Andrea,
yellow and there's red?
So this currently exists, and this does not. Is that correct?
What
Because
currently
this
exists?
must be, if you
Yes.
come down this road, this is what is currently the basketball court,
What
and the
road?
playground is right here.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Playground's right in there.
I didn't know there was a basketball court over there. When my kids
Basketball
were
court.
younger, the
We
basketball
should
court
talk.
was around the
What
corner.
is she talking about?
I might be
Basketball court-
confused.
Basketball court is, when my kids were young, the basketball court was over in that corner.
No, there's a basketball
The
court
more
over here.
southerly
Yeah,
yellow
behind those
road is
houses.
in
Yeah,
there.
behind those
Okay.
houses.
The southerly yellow road is there, because that's how they drive to get
This
to
is the
Correct.
the blue house.
Is this road
house is-
here
Drive to
there,
get to the
Matt?
snack shop.
Okay.
That's the emergency
Yeah.
access.
Okay,
for
that's not really
the
a road,
roads.
so, right.
No,
right,
it's gravel,
yeah.
it's a gravel
Okay,
drive
got it.
back to the snack shack.
Right.
Where's the emergency?
Not very
That- This
often.
is the snack shack road.
But doesn't this parking cut into a field that's currently there?
We're not concerned about that.
Okay.
We're just not concerned about,
Yeah.
The back line.
The one against the conservation.
Oh, so
Yeah.
I'm not looking at
uh,
this,
up against conservation down.
right here.
All right,
So
Right.
what are they
But what's this about?
proposing, fields for on
that's
this?
something else.
They had
That's
35
totally
feet
different than
short.
this.
This was,
And if they had
Oh, a map for
35
something.
more
Never mind,
feet,
never mind.
they would
2005.
be able
That's
to
a
build,
no-brainer.
they'd build
Yeah,
a
this
soccer
was
field.
back
They
when
want
the
to get the
Conservation
35
schools,
feet from
parcel
conservation
line
land.
back
Right here,
there.
because
And
they-
Never mind.
don't worry about
35
that stuff, that's
feet. They
non-issue.
need an easement.
They shouldn't have been.
anyway,
So
so
we,
the-
we
There's the
cleared
MBTA
the
line.
conversation.
If we
They want
could,
40 feet this way.
I don't think when you go to do a survey, I don't think you can get that. I think you're gonna end up getting all the way back to Boardman.
well, Ann got a quote on it
uh,
already.
No, I don't think you have to go back to Boardman.
You have to tie it to something
You know, you could-
existing.
The MBTA's got their
Ain't got
stuff
a
down to the
price.
foot.
of $1,500
To do what?
To
to
Survey.
survey that one.
survey that line.
Single line.
And all you need is 35
Well, you're
feet?
splitting hairs, because then, like you said, they're gonna do the job for the line, but they're gonna go back to stationary points that are already delineated on
And
one
that's,
end of them.
and that's what I'm asking, is where are the stationary points, and why shouldn't we get the dashed
We're
line
just not concerned about that line.
at the same time?
As long as we're at
It's- Well, this is just the difference between
Because we
don't
immediate
have it.
need
Yeah, I see
and
it.
if you don't know where your property line is, why are you
was
looking at
just
one
concerned of who
line
the abutter
when you
was.
have two lines?
Absolutely.
No idea.
If you're
Or
gonna
you
do
can
this,
just
you might
ask
as
the
well do
survey
that.
company if that's inclusive.
I think, the real question is, can CPC money be used to do a survey of an existing property that the town owns
I didn't miss that.
for recreation purposes? How does it fit into the chart?
I can't believe this line doesn't exist somewhere if we bought it.
I know.
Between us and conservation and.
No, I totally,
Town level? Are we sure it
It's a
doesn't?
matter of finding it in the field.
Yeah, oh, great.
That's all. I mean,
But I think we don't really have any choice but to survey it if we're.
no,
right?
I understand that, I'm asking maybe a rhetorical question. How does it fit CPC?
To be doing this
We
town survey.
acquire, we
Yeah, isn't this a highway
preserve, we
department thing?
protect. I don't have my four
because we
charts
might
with
be
me.
needing to acquire some land from the conservation
New
committee.
recreation.
And,
It already
we would-
exists.
but they want something back for it.
What do you
Which,
mean?
in other words, they're not gonna give you 30 feet by however like this length is without getting, they have stated that they will not give it without getting another parcel somewhere else in exchange
They
for it.
want to be compensated.
Does the wet part of Gumps count as
Wetlands
acreage?
doesn't count, I've already asked that.
So
Okay.
what, did they make a suggestion of what they want?
Where is
Does part of
something?
Gumps, because there's all kinds of new land.
It's already protected.
It is ridiculous because it's one town board talking
I
to
know.
another
Another.
town board.
Saying,
So it is a little bit
Pay
ridiculous.
up.
I
It
don't
is
think it's
interesting.
ridiculous, I just feel underinformed, maybe I should go to conservation more, I need to learn what they want, you know?
Something that is
And
not already
is-
protected, i.e. not wetlands, maybe habitat.
Well,
Doesn't
maybe,
necessarily have to
maybe
be
Gold
that we
Street.
And
acquire
when-
it,
Give 'em
there
some
may
Gold
be
Street.
And-
somewhere else in town already existing that could just be shifted to conservation.
I like that. I think
And
that's
one
great.
has to ask what is this town-owned parcel right here? Because the parcel in between the two, I believe, is the back side of an open space subdivision.
Is it, you're talking about the
This
yellow
little
square?
piece, this
Oh,
little
maybe you could give
piece
'em-
here.
But
Yeah,
there's
maybe you
no
could give
private.
conservation contiguous.
And I think that little,
This
and
conservation
Not with a,
property,
the little piece.
butts the railroad.
Right.
this one, and on the other side of the
Right.
railroad.
Yeah, it's
Town Pond, yeah.
almost directly across from Town Pond.
Yeah,
It was purchased.
That's this.
Back in the mid
that,
80s.
that's the parcel we're talking about. This is directly across the
Right.
railroad track from
Concom
Town Pond.
Purchased it.
Oh, they
They
purchased.
purchased it.
Okay, so we need to
Yeah,
consider.
they bought the property back mid 80s.
It wasn't like a tax title or anything like that.
Okay.
Which kicks it at a different level.
So how can you
apparently.
buy something and not know where it is?
I'm sure they did.
They
The
put bounds on.
chairperson of conservation at the time told me that it would be a good extension for the ball fields. That, of course, he's no longer
member.
on the board, so.
Yeah.
But just not to beat a dead horse there is no interest in expanding fields into this area?
To my
Okay.
no.
I will say for this thing that we're speculating, spending money on surveying, that I have walked in there. I've walked the first 30 feet of that.
Ann's walked in there also.
And I could concur with that former member of this commission, that it is indeed
Oh, yeah.
dry upland, and
It
it
is.
looks fairly level to what's already
Yeah,
there.
it's all dry.
It
Yeah.
looks like a great idea. to extend it.
I wish whoever's spearheading this would seriously identify this town-owned parcel.
And not ask us to define it.
Well,
They're not
just,
asking us to define it.
No,
That's
they're
Part
not.
of this conversation.
okay.
I know,
Okay.
and at the same time, a land swap is being talked about with a piece of land identified as owned by the municipality already, with no known purpose. It's just sitting out there. And it looks like it could be part of the discussion because of the adjacency. If I'm correct, and the parcel that's in between has got a conservation restriction on it because it's part of an open space subdivision,
could
it makes
slap
the
some
obvious
land here.
connection to the land that's lost.
That's what I just said.
It is, I know, and everybody keeps saying, we're not talking about that property. Well, we should be, it's town-owned.
Okay.
Right, this just makes the
This-
We're all
connection.
not,
This is-
sorry,
this
we're
thing
not
here
getting
is
I'm getting the
private.
connection now.
And I think it's part of an
Okay.
open space subdivision. This piece then becomes adjacent to a conservation.
Good point, Andrea.
So it just doesn't,
So even though it's
Clearly
private,
not
it's
today.
restricted private.
restricted, protected conservation land is what I believe that piece in between them is. So it's contiguous land in conservation. With there's no known municipal use for this. It seems like an obvious,
Yeah, you're right. I wasn't getting what you were, I wasn't understanding what you and Peg were trying to
So
get
if we were
at.
going to do a survey, you'd want to include this town-owned piece as well to get the exact measurements so that we would know, and who owns this piece of land, that is this little piece of pie right here? And
Yes.
how we could potentially, if it
Make
were
it contiguous.
possible, make it so that we could have the whole piece, and maybe you'd get 2 fields out of it.
I think it's just too tempting sitting there like that. There's very few
And if you didn't
uses,
use
there's
it
very
for
few
fields,
uses.
You could give it to, you could
that-
assign it as conservation, and that would be the
Yeah, well, that's what I was
Comparable
thinking. You could
conservation.
compensation.
compensate
conservation.
out of that parcel.
Or you can, and you could
I know what you're
possibly, you could do it in a number of different ways. You can do it in, if you had a strategic plan and you knew what you were looking at.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
So I don't think
we
you
don't
should
have an
go-
answer on the appraisal yet.
Well,
My
are you
sense is-
comfortable saying that it is, it's research into the possible acquisition for open space and recreation?
I think we should go back to Ann and find out why she's not looking at that. Ann's really smart. She would know that that was, there's got to be a reason she doesn't
It's
want to move on
labeled.
that,
Yeah,
right?
it's labeled.
So there's something there
Well, but
that we don't know.
the point is,
But that's, yeah.
all right, the point
Now
is,
you got
she
it.
explained it on this
Thinking about
corner,
that little
is that they have like 90% of the space for a full-size field there now. And the
And she just
addition of
wants a little
another
more.
40, 35, 40 feet
Yeah.
would give
Right.
them the full-size field.
But we're looking at purchasing a
not
piece of
much.
property at Myrtle and Gold. If this is a field,
He wants that.
then what's the point to
Right.
that? So there's something about this piece of property we don't know. So
Right.
let's find out.
Yep,
She said there's something.
okay, so we need more information.
She's saying, why don't we behave?
I do think, the way you described it, Cindy,
This,
you described it as,
perhaps
you
this.
described it as administrative support to,
That's
into land purchase, and I think we could use administrative monies of CPC for that,
careful.
for that type of survey.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it took me, it took me a long time,
That's okay, I wasn't getting the linkage thing, so we're.
yeah.
There's these dumpy little things.
But nobody writes town-owned on this plan without a reason.
Right.
It was called out on the plan.
Yep.
7 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I'll go back, we'll see
Is
what
that
we
how
can
late
figure
the
out
plan?
about that.
So old plan.
2005.
Yeah, predates any thought of the new school, so. Things change, roads change.
Yeah, it says Freeman Centennial. It doesn't say Freeman Kennedy.
Well, it's dated 2005.
Right.
Yeah, those are the old quads, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was wondering, where's the new school? This is, and it's not there.
2005, but actually, the school just opened in 2012, so this was preliminary, this was during the preliminary permitting and siting for the school, for the new school. This was during,
Right, yes, it was.
the
Okay.
very early development
Okay.
of
Because this
the
is the
addition.
circle,
Why does this say
the old
recreation?
circle,
right,
remember?
right.
Pull up. pull
All right,
around.
so, was there anything else from rec? That was it, right?
Yeah, that was it. Can I go forward with the motion, or for survey, or?
We need more information about that other piece of property before we're going to vote on a survey, is that right?
I think so.
I think that
I know,
the,
I'd like to know more.
I think the question wasn't that the survey isn't a good idea, the question is, what's the extent of the survey? And should it, and we'd like to know more about this property about this property here,
case
to
it-
see if an additional section of line
See, it says Department
should
of Public
be
Works.
included in
They
the
would know
survey.
more
Well,
about this.
and,
If one, the mobilization cost is the hard part.
Right.
Getting them out there to finish the evaluation of town property may not be much more.
Right.
And it's something we should know.
and, again, we just talked about Myrtle and Gold, to put a field at Myrtle and Gold. That's not to say we wouldn't consider that, but when we look at that moving, as we move forward to talk about that, we should know what our other options are as well. And if this is another option for another field, potentially, we should at least be able to weigh those.
I would have to say that my guess would be that if she's got this map, she knows that it's here. I mean,
Right.
obviously, and for whatever
there's some
reason,
other info.
it's not suitable. Otherwise, I'm sure she would be pursuing it.
Well,
Let's
you're.
get the info, though.
Well, it might not be so
You
well
had,
field,
you
but it
had,
could be
you had Anne's
Right.
thinking down perfectly. I wasn't even part of the conversation, and I know you had her thinking down perfectly when you said 90% of the field exists
Right,
on the property.
Right.
For an extra 40 feet,
right,
we do a swap over here.
right.
That's the short-term need of the recreational director.
Right.
While we're out there, the long-term need of the town
Yep.
is what is this and what
Right, what can we do with it?
what can we do with it?
Right.
And
Okay.
it's just something that the planners on the board want to know.
Right. All right.
We're meeting in 3 weeks, right? She'll have her answer quick enough.
Do we have a November date?
No, I haven't posted anything.
Why don't we just,
Have it not
probably
be
don't
the
want to be
Wednesday before
21, that's not going to
Thanksgiving.
work.
Yeah.
So we either do, let me see.
Well, we should do the 14th so that we can prepare for the meeting on the 29th.
Right. And I'm away the 7th, so someone else would have to do the meeting on the 7th. And I realize that's a Concom date, but I don't, unless we meet on a different day of the week.
The 14th is?
Yeah.
We don't have any Concom
Second and
warrant articles.
No,
So, and I mean, the purpose of the meeting would be
I can't do
warrant.
the 7th anyway.
I can't do that.
I'm hoping we're doing the 14th. I got planning board on the 15th,
When is town meeting?
29th.
29th. All right, well, let's plan on the 14th.
We're meeting.
And then, yeah, then if we can get more information, and you and I can talk to Ann, and
Yeah.
we'll kind of flesh out if we want to go any further, and if it makes sense to go further, we can get a new quote, she can get a new quote for the survey, and then we have more information, and we can vote on it next time.
Somebody who was part of the school committee building group might have the institutional memory for that property.
Yeah.
I don't even know what selectmen were involved at the time.
Yeah. All right, so, anything else, or should we move on?
Move on.
Okay.
Yep.
Let me see. All right, so that was rec. All right, we can do Gumps. Again, this is just kind of a, as we move along here on Gumps, where we're up to. So we have the planning board meeting is set for October 30, Tuesday at 7:40. And that is for the public hearing for a special permit application to have the parking lot at Gump's Farm, the proposed parking lot, to be exempt from the requirement that the parking area be paved. So, the notice has gone out, it's published already. Betsy should have the plans already, she's at least got electronic if she doesn't have hard copy. Did I forward the plans to everyone? They came in last week?
I don't
will
think so.
handle last week, I make sure I do that. And this is some of the detail of the plans, I only have this one copy, but I will, the electronic copy has the plan that you do all the layovers, do you know
Oh,
what I mean?
good, okay.
I don't know what they're
Yeah,
called.
please email that.
Has the parking lot changed?
The parking lot has changed.
Does it look larger?
It's in a different, you might not have been here at the
Configuration.
meeting, we discussed this. It's in a different configuration. Previously, it went across, stretching, paralleling Rockwood Road.
Previously, as in today's current
As in-
condition.
Yeah, kind of like today's current condition, but bigger. Because of ledge issues, it has now more of a square configuration. It is closer to, you know how there were two entrances to the old Gump's parking lot? It is closest to the one that is furthest away from the old Gump's house. So the second
Oh,
one
the
down.
far
The far one,
entrance,
the far
okay.
entrance. It now goes this way. Well, it's kind of more square. It's got this berm in the middle. There are swales around it for drainage.
Yeah.
The play area is pushed back just slightly because of that. Handicap parking is up here, closest to the play area. And the garden would be going out this way in the future. So, yeah, it was just topography that suggested the change in the outline of the area. It also pulls the parking further back from the new home at the corner of Rockwood Road and Boardman. And you may not have heard, and I can state it again just for the record, originally we had hoped to use the existing garage at the old Gump's house for storage and the old well. Those plans had to be abandoned because the well is too close to the septic system. It's not, I always say this wrong, potable. Potable water.
Potable?
I always.
I think it's potable, right?
I don't know.
I think it's either,
Portable.
Okay, drinkable.
right?
So,
Yeah.
there was a lack of comfort with, even though it is, can be used for irrigation, there was a lack of comfort that, you know, you couldn't stop people from drinking the water, and
Right.
not that we fear anything, but
I think Tom Houston told me it was actually a Board of Health regulation.
if we had I mean, technically, it could be posted as non-drinkable water, do not drink, but.
like at Audubon.
When you have, right, but when you have little kids and stuff, you know, and hoses and, you know, there's,
I think
So
people
it was a
watering
safety.
vegetables would like to use potable water.
yes, well, it will be, so there will have to be a new well. And because originally we were gonna put the well equipment in the old garage, that's no longer necessary or needed. We will have a new shed, probably a 10 by 12-ish shed, that will house the electricity for the site, the well, and whatever storage needs there are. The old garage will be demolished, and the old garage would have needed repair work, which we knew. So we will now, you know, look for a very solid, sturdy shed and go forward with that. And it's probably cheaper than trying to fix the garage.
Where's the shed going?
It doesn't
know?
have a plan yet.
But it's going where the well's gonna go.
It will go close to the well, and
Yeah.
it will be located somewhere between the play area and the garden.
Sounds sensible.
Because there won't be any drinking fountain at the play area. However, there will be a spigot that can be used to clean the play area.
When you do a shed, when you do a new shed like that, in a garden space, something we might want to communicate to Kyle is that if you were, and this is just an idea, but if you were going to offer some passive shade like a pergola, that if you extended that pergola off of this shed, it would soften the shed, making it feel more garden-like rather than utilitarian.
Garage.
And now you also have a cheaper pergola because 2 of the posts that you would build for it are part of the shed already, so you're just hanging as an extension. It's something that was in one of our perspectives that we looked at from our 5 people, or our 5 architects. So I will dig that out at the house, and I'm pretty sure it's one of Kyle's, but it's an idea
Ooh,
that I
that'd be
think
nice to
Concord
see.
had, so. So that's something where, I mean, I know if you had a community garden plots, that's something where you can get climbers to show.
Grow
and-
grapes on it, and we could
Yeah.
Make wine.
No, I mean, grape jelly.
Good heavens, that'll be,
That's a great
it'll be on Norfolk Net. Oh, they're talking about growing grapes and making wine. That was a joke.
We're in a jam.
Grape jelly.
So, all right, so that was one thing on Gumps. Check my notes here. Also, okay, so this plan has gone to Bob McGee as well, and he's taking a look at it with his new engineer, whose name I don't remember. And I'm gonna meet with them on Friday.
The highway guy?
It's a new person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will meet with them on Friday, and he'll go over it. And we had also inquired as to what type of gravel was available for purchase from the highway department. And he wrote back to me and said it's what you use as the base underneath. It's not the finished gravel. So we'll be able to get that from the highway department at cost.
That's great.
That was
news.
part of the budget.
That was part of the budget. And, yeah, so this is where we are with the plan. And do you know if Ann has had any luck with the playground equipment yet? Person?
She mentioned that, I don't recall the brand that she was gonna
What
go
is this
with.
thing?
I know that she had chosen the brand, but I know she was waiting on getting like final costs and,
Oh,
Don't know.
she didn't mention the cost.
Oh,
Monday.
yeah,
okay.
the woods.
So that's what's been up with Gumps. Does anyone, anything else? You got questions there looking at it, Andrew?
The only question I had in it is, when you brought up the shed would be, was going to be part of the property and now isn't, was only the treatment along the side, so that we don't inadvertently leave some of the property of the Gump's farm available to be consumed as side yard for the
The homeowner.
private homeowner. And I don't think we ever discussed it, but I just,
Well, originally,
because we were gonna
had an easement.
really close neighbors.
Well, originally, we had an easement over their property.
Yeah.
And so we will also be saving a cost that we don't have to draw up a legal easement
Right.
anymore.
I would
But
like
their
to,
trees would go down the property line.
along the property line.
I
That-
believe so, but I can
that's-
check.
That's what I'm hoping is
Right.
the answer.
Is that what this is?
It's on this side that I'm concerned about.
Or very close to, like,
Right, but it's always a big issue, is that town property adjacent to adjacent to home lots becomes privatized by the homeowner over time.
I thought they were going to be trees along the property line.
Yeah.
There
I know
are.
we talked very, very explicitly at trailheads. It's just that when we moved this parking side over, I just want to make sure the property line
yeah,
stayed
I'll
firm.
definitely make a note
Yeah.
and mention that,
Okay,
that's where it should go.
okay.
Just very briefly, speaking of privatizing or being marginalized border space, who should I talk to, just as a board member and a young one at that, I guess, meaning lack of experience? Who do I talk to about for up board? Would that be Concom that I would go to talk about preserving, not trailheads, but designated access points, yeah.
Cindy,
In other words,
back in the
like.
day, you were the land management
site?
subcommittee.
Or just in general?
Not in general, because me not being here on the decision to definitely not pursue the Myrtle Street property, the one that's being developed now. I guess if I was here a couple meetings ago, I would have said, but what about this space on the side? And I trotted it out
Came up.
a few meetings ago saying, and I heard, well, it's already protected, it's already, open space, or it's going to be part of their property, but they won't have a fence blocking people out of that, or they won't have a electrified fence keeping the deer towards the, but ultimately, that's what happens, is things get, Christmas trees get thrown back there and stuff and all this.
Right.
They get-
Years.
Yeah, and so what happens is meadow becomes a thicket, and a thicket, mammals can't go through, large creatures like us and deer can't go through. So I'm just wondering, as a general theme, maybe it's Concom I need to talk
If
to.
you wanted to ask about that property in particular and how they plan to enforce the turtle habitat, that it not be encroached upon, and
Yeah.
that if part of it is field, it stays field,
Concom.
I would go to Concom,
Concom.
because they would have the, in their order of conditions, they should have spelled out how that protection is gonna work going forward.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
their order went that far up the property. It looks
I-
kind of upland to me.
Yeah.
Well, they also have a copy, though, of that habitat restriction,
There's a habitat restriction.
so,
And I realize you're
Between
accommodating
that-
me right now. I know, I just,
No,
because I need to be less ignorant of this, so that when we talk about, like, hey, what about what happened to be, what we almost had an easement where the garage was, like, I think that stuff would be clearer to me. And kind of like I would have more of an informed decision on what to think about, how concerning is this? Is it just a couple of trees along the line, or are we losing 50 feet of open space and a vista? Because things happen, like when you say, okay, well, now we're moving the parking lot, which is fine, and we're moving the playground, which is fine, but now we're moving the planting field. And then I
no,
said,
that's not moving.
the gardens.
Garden isn't moving.
Gardens.
Okay. Because those
The-
things.
The other configuration within this space has shifted,
Okay. Because when you talk about things like that,
right?
where the shade and sun comes from can be over someone's house, can be a half a neighborhood away. It's, you know what I mean? It's, you have to think about things
Oh,
in
yeah.
500-foot intervals.
Yep.
Thank you.
But, yeah, with regard to
No, that's
those
off topic,
properties,
sort of.
between planning board and Concom, they should be
Okay,
able to answer your questions.
I'll get educated over there and appreciate it.
Let me see what else. I don't have anything on Campbell Street going forward. And let's see, I guess we can kind of try to tackle some of the beginning of the, Michelle put together a really nice package, looks like, that I'll just seen tonight, okay.
Okay.
See ya.
Amazingly good package.
Yeah, on the down payment assistance, with a brief, overview on this, and then specifics.
to be during this particular point, but.
But we probably will be talking about it again,
Yeah.
because it's a lot to look at, we probably will
Good night.
be wanting to
Night.
read it, and
See ya.
coming back.
Nice to see you again.
So the,
Andrea, excuse me, just one second. Andrea pointed out something about the Brockton application that I thought was
Fabulous.
so fabulous, and I showed it to her, and it says here, there are 2 ways to qualify for the local preference lottery. The prisoner must live or work in Brockton in order to qualify for a local preference. So the key word Andrea explained to me is preference.
Right.
And not qualify. It's not like you
Right.
have to qualify, but you just get a preference.
Right, and that's how ours most recently was written.
Okay, and so before, did the town council or did
They,
the state
town,
take issue with us because you had to qualify instead?
yeah, the difference between eligibility and preference given.
I see.
Doors open to everybody. Some people can move to the top of the line.
No, Dan, tonight.
No.
Is that the
yeah,
unlegal way to describe it?
right. Way back a few years ago, you had to have, the way the program was originally designed, you had to have the tie to Norfolk. And then a couple of years ago, town council said that is discrimination, you can do it as a preference, but it has to be open to everyone.
Okay. I thought that was interesting.
So, going forward, Michelle, we should look at these fact sheets relative to our own fact sheet and identify what's similar and different?
Yeah, I mean, I went through and I kind of, I took, a bunch of towns. I mean, there's a lot of other programs, and just kind of gave you guys, the different information, different ways each town has handled it. A lot of them are very similar to ours, and then there's other things that are, totally, it's interesting to read. That's why this is a printout of their actual, each town's
Right.
total application and guide sheet, and this is just stuff that I pulled out of it that I thought you guys would find interesting.
And
on-
so these things, when you were thinking about, when you pulled things out about each town, you did it with an eye toward how is it the same or different?
Yeah,
in
like for
Norfolk?
instance, Andover, the price of the house can't exceed $362,790, which our homes are only, like the ones that we're working on right now are like in the $180,000 range. So, and it was interesting to see, like some of them are giving a 10% down. They told us 10% is too high,
Right.
and $15,000 is the cap. Our cap is only, I think, 10?
It's
No,
20,
we've done
That's 20.
16.
Yeah.
but 20 was the cap, I
Yeah,
believe.
20 sounds right.
So it's, I just kind of pulled out little things that you might find interesting, like Brockton, for instance, we're 80% of the HUD, they're 120. So, they're, and then a lot of the towns, like if you look, I highlighted, I didn't put it all in here, but like the income levels are totally, totally different.
Interesting.
Each town has a different income level, and some of them are like, double what ours are.
So when Andover says low to moderate income home buyers, a moderate income home buyer is the 80%.
Right, but
So
then other
that's-
towns are 120%.
And then
So
120.
everybody's got it, set up a little bit differently.
Brockton is a large enough community that they may not be in the Metro Boston HUD census district.
Well, theirs is different too, because you don't have to, we don't have to find land and create it or properties. They can go out and find whatever they want and then get it approved. So they could go like to the condos across the street from the Brockton Mall, find one available, and then they fill out an application and that property can be approved. So they can actually get approved to purchase that property even though it's not part of
Affordable home.
yeah. Which
I
thought
did
was
know when I glanced through the site, I remember seeing that not all the towns, they just help you buy a home. It does not have to be a deeded affordable home, so they're not all tied in with you know, the 10% affordable house requirement.
Right. In Brockton, Michelle, you wrote, units remain affordable. And, you know, that process that it remains affordable. Take care. Is, you know, how it, that process to remain affordable could be the difference between being on Brockton's
They have a deed
affordable
rider.
housing. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
deed, okay, that's what it was?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
through a
it's
deed?
more, that's why I said, you know, see attached for additional detailed information. I just kind of pulled out, some of the information, because even in some of these towns, even after 5 years, the loan is, or the down payment and assistance is totally forgiven. So they can resell the home and have to pay nothing back. Other towns require that it be paid back. So it's interesting to kind of look and see all the different towns and how they're handling this.
Can you show that example of where?
Oh, it's funny, I don't know.
Get rid of it after 5 years?
And you know what, I will have to.
Forgivable loan. It's probably Cambridge.
Right, it's, I mean, it's,
But-
She, oh, I know. I'm-
Review this as homework.
Oh,
because-
oh.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally agree. It's just that
9 o'clock,
Michelle,
Yep.
Michelle's got it right now.
Yeah.
Right now, she
And
knows
we have
what
her
this
available.
says.
Yeah, sure. yeah.
And so I'm trying to get
It's
as much
impressive,
of
it
her information.
yeah, I don't exactly remember which town.
It
because
looks
this-
like Cambridge, because Cambridge says
It may be-
forgivable.
Oh, so where's the Cambridge? Because in here, the
Forgivable
Cambridge.
loan is what you wrote.
That's Gloucester.
And the other thing, I will, because I had to rewrite our plan,
Right.
and it never
What's
was
on what we have,
what we
hard
had,
copy
what
is
we
not.
had online.
Right.
I had to rewrite and consolidate for submission to the lottery agent with this group of affordable homes, and of course, our plan was rejected. But we had a lot of little pieces that were all floating out there, and I just took them and I mushed them together.
It happens.
So I never disseminated it to anyone because it was rejected. But I can now disseminate it just as this
Base.
is what we had, it's our baseline.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I was automatically going to go to the information we have from previously.
And it's not on the website anymore because we removed it.
Right, right.
So yeah, it's not that it's much different, but it's a lot more cohesive. Okay. And I had one other piece of old business, and then we can, yes, homework, and talk about it. Let me just make a note to myself. Do you remember we had that property on Mirror Lake, that,
The little piece of
Yeah.
tax title?
the little piece of, it's not tax title, it's owned.
Oh.
And
Which one?
It's a little,
The one in the gully?
yes.
Yeah, Betsy
And, you know, that kind of
fizzled out.
fizzled out. But I got a phone call.
Fell by the wayside?
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And,
She was looking to gift it.
but she didn't want to pay any money to
Right.
do it.
Which
And
you
it-
shouldn't have to.
And it wouldn't
You
cost
haven't been
very
reading Norfolk Net.
much. Yeah.
No, I
'Cause we would,
feel without Norfolk Net telling me what to think,
and
that they should not.
of course, if we did opt to provide assistance in that, it would have to go to a town meeting warrant for a non-buildable, already protected, very small.
How far is
parcel.
it protected?
It's not buildable. It was declined by Concom years ago because most of it's in the buffer zone of the wetland. It's wetland and buffer zone.
Don't we have a precedent of what to do with gifted properties?
It's not gifted yet.
So what's the point?
Properties in the potential of being gifted.
Yeah.
She's requesting to gift it, is she
No,
not?
no. She's
She's
no.
requesting financial assistance to perform that act.
Again?
Oh.
She came back?
I just had a phone message. So,
Well, wait a minute.
I
Where-
just want-
I have a question. Sorry, on that exact sentence or phrase of this is, who paid for the gifting previous to now? Is that something that,
the homeowner usually, they approach the town. Sometimes it's for in lieu of taxes. It's taken, and I don't know.
so it's just a clerical bill? It's not, how much money are we talking about?
It's legal bill.
It's a legal bill. I do not know if I came and said I wanted to give this property, and I went upstairs and asked town administrator. I don't know what the answer is as far as what the process is.
It seems to me that giving property to the town should not cost the giver.
We have written that letter in the past. This board has written that letter.
Yeah.
And what Cindy has said is that it's not an administrative action on our part.
It would have to go to the warrant.
It goes to the warrant, that we purchase, that we assist in the conveyance of the land.
Nope.
Financially.
Nope, no, I'm thinking that we shouldn't even be going that far. There must be a mechanism in place in this town to accept.
You know, I will check, I'll check.
There is.
Upstairs.
It is you can
And-
check.
and
check
it's
with
not
the-
just this
is
town,
it-
it's every
Is
town.
it that, or is it the assessor's office?
Because this is what it is
Chief
to
Assessor-
cut to the nuts and bolts of it, if it's, say it's like, $5,000 to get this done, and this person says, hey, I'm already giving it to you, then at the town level, the next phrase is, well, just let it be taken for taxes then, right? And then someone says, no, I would feel better if I told my family that I gave it to you guys, not just sat on my hands and let it be taken. It's a different light. You're painted into a different light.
Well,
I'm
it's
giving
not
a gift, or
it's
I'm
not, it's
being.
not just
Yeah.
it's not just the moral high road. There's also tax implications.
Yeah. Yeah, so now the voters have to vote on it because they're losing taxes.
So,
No. There's a tax benefit to the giftor, to gift
Right.
something of
Ah,
value.
But then there's
There's
also
there's
the
an
lost
appraisal.
income.
There's
To
an
the town.
appraisal.
there is a lost income to the town.
That's the keeps on giving. That's every year, right? I mean, so this person has to pay taxes on.
What is
what's
your
not-
question?
I missed you.
Yeah.
The question was kind of, my personal opinion here is that it does not make sense for this board to propose that action of using CPA funds, and that it should be pursued at another
In a
tax
different-
title or to the assessors or whatever. I think, my personal opinion is it is not a wise use of funds, but I wanted to know, I hate to bring it up again, because I don't think we ever really decided on what to do with it.
Well, I know this particular property, we said we did not want to, this particular property, whether we came to a vote or we didn't come to a vote, the understanding among the board was that we weren't going to pursue it.
Okay.
That was, I thought that was very clear.
All right.
Those that saw it, we were not going to pursue it. But the second question, the one that has, brought, Matt's interest up, what's the process to gift, what's the traditional process to gift to the town? What's the approximate cost? And
I mean, I did get some rough costs
and I know
when
we
we
have
talked
written
previously.
that, we have written that letter
Yeah,
in the past.
yeah, and I had gotten some rough costs at a local level, from a local attorney. I think it was a couple
Now, when you
$1,000.
say we have written that letter in the past, to whom and what did it say?
There's at least one, if not more than one, where we said we're not interested in purchasing it, but if you are interested in gifting it, we would be willing, we'd consider.
Well, because we would become
we'd
part of a
consider it
business
making it a
deal.
we'll consider it making it,
We
you
would
know,
be-
neutral for you. We would consider picking
Okay.
up those costs.
And that's
to make
what
it
we
neutral for
had
you.
said with this one, but I'm not sure that that's
So
wise.
we have no precedent for doing this. We've never done that.
We have never actually done it.
Has any other town?
We've
Yeah,
offered
They gift, people have been gifting land to the town since the
That's not
town
what I
has been
said.
incorporated.
That's not what I said. I said, we don't have.
have never done it.
Yeah, right. Do you know of any local town that's done that? In Massachusetts?
Sure.
Do you? Who?
But I would suspect, I don't know, I shouldn't say that. I think some of it depends on the value of the property.
I certainly think that's true, yeah, because you already said that most of it's already protected. So,
I just think taxpayers aren't gonna like that.
Exactly. That's my point. All right, well, let me see what other avenues, and I will,
Yeah, I think the question is, what dollar value are we talking about?
well, if
two
we,
value-
if
two
we had to do
dollars.
anything, we'd have to go through town council, and so that would be expensive. In other words, if we had any documents prepared or anything like that, it's not like we can go to, you know, Mr. Smith, attorney in Franklin, and utilize them. We have to go to town council. All right, well, let me see what else I can find out. Any other business from anyone?
No, we have our homework here.
Yep.
We've been doing our
minutes.
warrants. I'd like to hold the minutes of,
I haven't
The-
read either, so.
of the 5th, because that's the meeting that you asked me to expand upon.
Yeah, you know what, and that's what I wanted to ask you.
You
Did you?
did a nice job of putting it in place.
Well, did you get that from me, the document? And with, yeah, I was wondering, because your email, again, did you get the notice of this meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, for some
And I
reason-
did I got the meeting. I got the minutes.
Right, but
That were
you
sent to everybody. I didn't get an earlier draft.
Yeah, see, I had sent a message to you saying that here's the minutes for you to place them
Add
in
in.
and then send it back, but I never got a response, so I was
Yeah.
questioning. And then I got a kickback on your email when I sent the message to all of us,
Let me
to
write,
everybody regarding this meeting. So I was kind of, I wanted to ask you tonight if anything changed with your email.
no, so let me just write down my email addresses, so you can double check what you have.
Yeah, no, if you could, because I was questioning what was going on, because I got something, you're the only one that came back to me.
All right, so we'll table minutes till next time, because I actually just printed them out today, and I will take a look at them, and our new clerk didn't stay, so I don't think she read them either.
And Andrea, if you want to, you can just send me your stuff, and I'll just put it into it.
Well, I now have this,
Okay, so you just want to insert
I
it?
now have it
Okay.
as a Word document, so I can insert.
Okay.
All right, and so while you're doing that, if there's nothing else, someone can make a motion to close.
I move we adjourn.
I second that.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 9:20. Thank
The
you
next
all.
meeting on the,
With the next meeting on
14th.
11/14.
and for the agenda, we'll be doing, will we be doing the affordable housing?
I'd like to.
Okay, and then the,
Oh, and then you'll
then the
report.
meeting minutes, then the warrant article presentations, and anything new on the field.
Yeah.
Bob McGee. Bob
Yeah, I
McGee.
don't, yes, and I don't think there'll be any real
might-
presentations on the warrant
camera.
articles, except for what the town clerk wants to do. I mean, and Historic can talk about their projects. I mean,
It's the one with the red dot.
Yeah.
Is that the,
Not until he pulls
if we
down
do
the,
any, if we pull together any slides,
yeah, I'll let Historic pull together their project slides and. Are we all set there for cable?
you're not suggesting, thank you, you're not
you.
suggesting, that